I would like to call to order the regular governing board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District for January 23rd, 2019. May I please get members present?
Shakil Ali is not present. Marie Brizuela.
Here.
Maybell Manio.
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai.
Here.
And Clayton Koo.
Here, thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance led by students from Benjamin Franklin Intermediate School.
Over here. Oh. Good job. Face us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is item 4, board meeting guidelines. Board members will review the board meeting guidelines and report how well they adhere to the meeting guidelines at the end of the meeting. Next item is item 5, approval of the agenda. Before we approve, I was asked to remove items 8B and 8C from tonight's agenda. Yes. 8B and 8C.
There was another one too. Bernie? Is it the third item? Oh, you told me it was 3. Okay.
If there are no any other items, would anyone like to make a motion?
Oh, you waiting for me? Oh.
Or- Okay, okay.
I would like to motion the approval of the agenda
I'll second the motion. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
with the
Okay, sorry.
with the amended changes.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Next item is item 6, special presentations. 6A, the city eats. Fernando Vera students will present a student-made video, and Benjamin Franklin students will present their reflections on their community service field trip that took place on December 12th, 2018.
Hi. Good evening to the board. Good evening, community members. My name is Luisa Santos. This year, I am a teacher on special assignment in the Department of Student Services at the district office. One of my goals this year is to find alternative programs for our youth, as well as opportunities for leadership and community service. So I was presented with this opportunity by my friends at the City Eats organization, which is based in San Francisco. They make meals for the homeless, and they hand distribute them throughout San Francisco. In collaboration, we also had a former student from Ben Franklin who worked at Salesforce, who was already in collaboration with the City Eats, and we got a tour of the Salesforce Tower as well. So it was definitely a community event for sure. This evening I will be presenting a presentation from Ben Franklin, also a student-made video from Fernando Rivera, and I have some students from Ben Franklin as well that would like to give their testimony in person of how the event went. Thank you so much. I have Julian Bergato and Eden Magbilang, and they're going to show you the slideshow. Just press the right button. Right there.
Same.
start off with this cover image, this is just us beforehand taking a picture in front of the Joyce sign near the Salesforce Tower, where everyone from Ben Franklin is in the picture.
This is when we were at the BART station, and we were on our way to Salesforce, and we were about to distribute the meals.
This is just pictures from us on the BART on the way on the way back.
This is when we met up with the City Eats, and a nice man named Uncle Damien told us what we were going to do and what our mission was.
And then this image is just us getting the meals that we were about to distribute, and us also going into our own groups. And also a student quote from Sage Rose Key states, "I have a whole new perspective. I can only imagine what it's like to live on the streets. I can only imagine how it feels as people, us, overlook our people that need the most help."
This is us walking as a large group to meet up and then each get a different section of the city, and a quote from Miss McKittrick's son. "This definitely was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I will never forget this experience. It felt so good to give people meals to people in need. I just wish more people would help because nobody should have to go hungry."
This image is just a photo of one group in particular going around the street to distribute the meals, and a quote from Lucy Rosales, a 7th grade leadership student. "Seeing how many people are on the streets makes me grateful for what I have, and distributing meals to them was a very touching experience."
This is us at a place called United Playas that explained how many gun parts were left on the streets and how it's our job to help. And a part quote from another leadership student named Isaiah: "The trauma and trouble of these people is unimaginable. It's truly remarkable to see individuals try and push for positivity, one smile at a time."
And in this photograph, it's just showing the people of United Playas talking about the gun violence around the streets of San Francisco, like Uncle Damien and Rudy. And a quote from an 8th grade leadership representative, Brian: "The trip downtown shocked me to the core, especially the condition of some of the homeless people on the streets, and how United Playas were ex-convicts redeemed."
This is another shot of the United Playas. One of the members is holding a shovel that was made out of recycled gun parts. And a quote from Isis: "Violence is not an option. United Playas gave me the inspiration to work hard and focus on school and follow the right path and not end up in a bad place."
And this is just an image of more groups walking around and looking at the tall buildings. And
This is us at the Salesforce Tower, about to take our tour. And we got a tour of the Ohana floor, the 61st floor, courtesy of the former student Liana Lee.
And this is just an image of us at its tallest floor looking around at the very nice view of San Francisco.
And this is one of the photos.
And then this is like a look around 360 degrees of the building, which you can see, I think, the Bay Bridge, but I'm not sure, and then a part of the city.
This, on the left photo, that's Liana and Miss McKittrick, and on the right is a room that we went into and got to see.
All right, thank you guys. Yeah, come on up. They have some more personal testimony they'd like to share with you.
Yeah.
So United Players was actually an impromptu stop on the meal distribution. Uncle Damien works in connection with United Players. Rudy Corpus is a big community member in San Francisco. Their organization helps gang violence prevention, and they were having their gun buyback that weekend. So he brought out the recycled gun parts, and he said he shipped them all to Atlanta, where mothers who had lost their children to gun violence then melted all the gun parts together to make shovels. And those shovels were used to plant a tree where Martin Luther King Jr. Is buried in Georgia. So it was just an eye-opening experience for the kids. And they'd like to share some more words. Go ahead.
Just to recap, about a month ago, us leadership students went around San Francisco to distribute meals to the homeless. When interacting with the homeless people, I really felt the genuineness of how grateful and how well their manners were, especially the fact that they said things like "thank you" still, despite the hardships that they've been through, which made it all the more touching. At first, it felt a little bittersweet, the fact that we could only give them 1 to 2 meals at most, instead of something like a job or a home. But however, my mindset came around to show me that even though I was only giving them 1 to 2 meals, it could have made a bigger impact on them that I could imagine, such as if it was their last hope of food or if it was just something that made their day. Overall, at the end of the trip, the impact it made on me is that I will definitely be more charitable to helping those who are less fortunate, and especially the fact that I'm really thankful for the fact that I was able to go on this trip, and also it really showed me how easy yet effective doing things like charity work is.
Hello, my name is Eden. I am a 6th grader in leadership, and I felt like this experience was astonishing because it really opened my eyes to our fellow kind, alone on the streets, desperately trying to keep the light of hope alive. I remember being afraid of these people, like I was threatened by their presence. I would look away and make as little contact as possible, and I felt terrible thinking about this later on. It was very emotional and made me feel like we don't value each other as humans, as we don't care about each other. This experience opened my eyes to how lucky I am to have a home, warm food, and clean water. I thought about how some kids who are born into this know nothing but pain and suffering. I noticed how so many humans have little to live for and little to strive for. I felt like this field trip was extremely shocking, and I felt warm inside, knowing that I helped these people feel better. Thank you.
I'd like to conclude with one more presentation. These are from the students of Fernando Rivera, Sue McMahon, and her leadership and student government class.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Garcia, and I feel good about the experience I had, and we should just all be grateful for what we have, like having friends, family, and a roof over our head.
Hello, my name is Keenan, and the experience was very touching, and it was, in one word, it would be shocking, and I think we should just do this again. Thank you.
Emilio, and giving out the food made me feel sad but also thoughtful.
Zero. One word that I would describe the field trip is very new. Something that I'd like to say it was a great opportunity to go to the field trip and help others, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Parker Mendoza, and I think the experience that we had was very revitalizing. It's a good way to bring us back down to earth, and one word to describe this experience is riveting. It's really good to reveal the rest of the city too.
Hi, my name is Mason Tran, and this field trip was very emotional, and one word to describe this was shocking.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Fong, and going on the field trip made me realize that there are so many people that care about me and that I'm so lucky to have friends and family. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Isabel Valencia, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that helped, and I'm so grateful that I have a family and stuff, and giving the food to the homeless was just awesome feeling inside.
Hi, my name is Alexis, and this experience made me think about how we have many things and we should be grateful for it. And one word to describe my experience was new and interesting.
Hello, my name is April, and thank you for including us in this experience. One word to describe it would be eye-opening. It was really surprising to see how many people there were to give food to.
Thank you, Malabanan, and I just want to say thank you for this experience because it was really touching and it was really good to see how I could make a difference.
Thank you, City Eats, for giving us the opportunity to help our community. Hi, my name is Chloe, and I just wanted to say thank you for this experience. It was really touching and inspiring, and I would love to do this again because it just made many people happy.
Hi, my name is Q, and I want to say thank you for this experience. It was very eye-opening and very inspiring, and I really hope that we can do this again to help others and those in need.
Hi, my name is Kelly, and I wanted to say thank you for this experience. I felt really involved because I was able to provide food for those in need.
Thank you, City Eats, for taking us there, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to help others.
Thank you so much to City Eats for giving us the chance to give back to our community and make the world a little bit better.
Thank you, City Eats, for showing us how lucky we are for our lives and how much we have.
Thank you, City Eats, for the wonderful experience. I really love volunteering, and I hope we can do it again.
Thank you for the experience, and I want to do it again.
I'm Tatiana Santos. Thank you to City Eats for letting us have this chance to give back to our community. I'm Mia Vero, and thank you for this opportunity. It was definitely eye-opening.
My name is Naomi, and thank you for giving us a guide to lead the future with.
So in total, we took 65 students, about 10 chaperones, and yeah, it was just overall a great experience, as you heard. Thank you to Ben Franklin, to Fernando Rivera, to the chaperones, to the City Eats and Salesforce, and we hope to do more service trips like this in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do any of my board members have any comments or anything you want to say?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Looking this way. Yeah. Good evening. Yeah, this is definitely a good way to start the evening, to see how our students are getting out there and learning outside of the classroom as much as they are in the classroom. I'm really excited and happy to see them come here and speak so eloquently and genuinely about their experience. And kudos to all the people who were involved. Also, it's good to see my good friend Rudy Corpus. He's been doing that for at least 20-something years, you know, so it was good to see that we're still, you know, still doing the good work. So thank you.
Well, you probably said almost everything. Good job. I want to thank the students for coming and those that helped the students get involved in this, and to say that it's true. When you help others, you not only help them, but you help yourself, and you get to learn more. There are a lot of families that are, if you drive on El Camino, or you drive on, what's the other street, Park Plaza, and several of the streets in Daly City where there's no homes right there, you will see campers and trucks and vans of people who are living like that too, because they can't afford to live in a house or an apartment. So it's kind of sad that there are many people that need help, but you did make a difference when that day that you went. You made a difference in their lives, and they'll remember that. And especially when it comes from children, it's hope. It's hope that you'll continue this way for a long, long time. And always remember that volunteering is the most important thing you can do for others. So thank you all, and you all learned something too. So thank you.
Great experience, and thank you for coming and sharing it with us. You know, the universe has blessed you with more fortunate circumstances than those that you were serving. And I hope that compassion that you all built and developed for those less fortunate will continue to grow, and you use it to motivate you to make the changes in the world that you want to see, because you are our future leaders and you already show those leadership qualities. So thank you. and keep it up.
As you all witness, many of those that are on the streets are not there by choice. Many of them are there because they have mental health issues, or they're forced to the streets because of the state of the economy that we live in, especially with the Bay Area being the highest rent being charged throughout the nation. And so we see families just being forced to be on the streets. But to hear the sense of gratitude that each of you had in giving back, that's reciprocity. You're giving and you're receiving that reward of compassion. And the level of dignity that you give back to them is something that is very priceless, because that's more than the food and the meal and the gift of warmth and that interaction that you give. A lot of them seek that dignity. As was shared, you had shared that you were afraid of them at once, and that you realized that that was feelings that you didn't want to continue to have. And that's the dignity they seek when we pass them on the streets every single day. So I look forward to seeing more of these service trips. I like Trustee Ali, I go way back with Rudy, and that's pure dedication that he's still doing this work with UP. Pure dedication. He really does change lives, and he truly is a gift of hope for many of those who are trying to turn their lives around. And to hear what he does with the gunmetal and how he gives that sense of closure and be able to just restore peace of the mothers who have lost their children is just, I mean, there's just no words when you lose a child in that way. So all of that, you've been able to encompass that experience, and I hope that it changes you forever. I hope it changes you forever. So thank you for sharing. God bless you.
I also want to echo the comments of my colleagues and just thank the students for presenting tonight, as well as all the teachers and staff and organizations for making this trip possible. I think that it's important early on to understand the role of public service and giving back to your community, understanding how one person can actually make a difference. So I just want to extend my appreciation for everybody for making this trip possible for all the students. I also have a couple certificates to present to the speakers. So I'll just pass it to you guys.
Oh, is this one for all of them? Yeah.
Have a certificate of appreciation for participation in the flag ceremony and special presentation to Eden Lampion. I used to go to school with Eden's aunt and Eden's father.
Oh, wow. All in the family.
And I also have a certificate of appreciation for participation in the flag ceremony and
So thank you again so much for presenting tonight. Yep, so we're going to just move on to the next item. Next item is item 6B, recognition of the Daly City's Mayor's 2018 Use of the Year. The board will recognize the students who recently received the Mayor's Use of the Year Award of Daly City. I know last month, the outgoing mayor of Daly City, Jessalyn Manalo, recognized 2 youths in Daly City, and hearing the great stuff about what they've done, I thought it was appropriate to sort of recognize them, having been current students as well as graduates of the school district. Yep. So the first student the youth I want to recognize was Vicente Roberts. So one of his teachers said that Vicente is an extremely well-rounded young man. He's unique among his peers, and he possesses academic curiosity, athletic potential, as well as a number of less obvious qualities that cannot be indicated by grades or athletic prowess. He attended Susan B. Anthony through the 5th grade and attended Thomas R. Policita Middle School. He attributes his academic success to the foundation he received at those schools, naming his kindergarten teacher, Ms. Petrus, in particular. So I just wanted to recognize you and congratulate you. If you had any things you wanted to say to the board or...
I'd like to say thank you to the board. I'm appreciative of the recognition. I appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's here. Wow. the first thing that comes to mind really is with these middle school students, what they just presented. Daly City is an important community to me, and I also spend a lot of time in San Francisco. And walking Mission Street and 16th Street in that corner and seeing things that are there, an old community of mine, the homelessness that's there and the strife that's there is, it's a struggle, right? It's very bad. And just to think that there are middle school students that are in our community that are going and helping another community, I find incredibly inspiring. And I want to try to have leaders at Jefferson High School do something similar, because that is just incredible to think that we have a group of people that are making food and going out and giving that to a community that really needs it. And I'm inspired by that. And that's really the first thing that comes to my mind. As to my award, I'm very appreciative again. Thank you very much. And I will try to use the momentum moving forward so that I can come back and help my community. So thank you.
Did any of my board members have any comments they wanted to make?
Yeah.
So much going on. Ready to go home already. Well, good seeing you again. My personal congratulations to you. Keep up the great work, and you've just inspired me by saying that, our middle school students now have given you another idea to take to the high school students. So, yeah, like you use the word momentum. Let's keep this momentum going, all of us in here.
Well, I want to congratulate you too. Are you at what high school? Jefferson. And what grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
Senior? Okay. Well, it'll be a big loss to the school when you leave, but it's going to be a great opportunity for you to continue what you have in your heart of what you want to help people. So I hope that I wish you the best. I'm sure you're going to really be prosperous when you leave school. Go to college though, okay? And just having you here, it just makes me feel good. We're proud of our students, but then they go on to high school and continue to do the same good work. So thank you so much for coming and letting us see what you're doing too. Okay.
I just want to say congratulations again. And have you already accepted an offer from a university, or?
I haven't accepted an offer. I'm waiting on the University of California, specifically at Berkeley and Los Angeles. But I have been accepted into the civil engineering program at San Francisco State University.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm going to remember your name because I have a good feeling you're going to be very well prominent in the future. So I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. It was nice seeing you receive your award from the mayor during the holidays. Very impressive speaker. You have a wonderful presence.
Yeah.
And as we've all already shared, we're going to remember your name. But just like we saw the Ben Franklin alumni ensure that her fellow students she was opening a door for them, I'm sure that you will do the same when you continue to rise up. So don't forget Daly City.
Yeah.
Don't forget North County, and we look forward to seeing you continue to contribute in all the circles that you'll be a part of. So congratulations.
Before I make a comment, I was going to let Mr. Valenti say his words if you wanted to take a word too.
Great, thank you. Yeah, well, he and I go back to my days at Paula Seed. I was his principal for the 3 years he was there, and he only visited my office on positive accords, if I recall correctly. I'm not just saying that because his father's in the room. It's nice, to go back and have these positive engagements with former students and current students. So I just want to say thanks for, first of all, giving me the opportunity to say some things. Congratulations to you, Joe. I was here at the City Hall meeting as well. Was able to sneak in a hug back then, but I guess tonight's picture should be better. Thank you.
I just want to extend my congratulations as well, too. I know there'll be great things ahead of you, so just want to wish you all the best in college and whatever you do. I also recommend, if you get into Berkeley, go Bears.
Go Bears.
We also have a certificate for you, too.
This one. I get to be the lucky person. So this says, your achievements in the Daly City Mayor's 2018 Youth
So I also wanted to recognize the other Daly City Mayor's 2018 Youth of the Year. Her name is Natalie Anunacion. She is currently the Student Council President at Woodrow Wilson Elementary School. One of her teachers said that she's a natural leader and is always thinking of ways to improve our school. When she became Student Council President, she instantly sought me out to plan movie nights and more. She's academically a rock star and has finished our online reading program, and now we are actively matching her to books. And she's reading. She's a leader, academic rock star, and is always striving for more to improve herself and our school. So I just want to extend our congratulations to Natalie as well, too.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me here. It's an honor to be recognized like this, and this is very important in my life, and I'd like to thank you for it. And I'd like to thank my family, my friends, and all the people who supported me. I would especially like to thank my teacher, Miss Camacho, and thank you for everyone, and yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Take any comments as well?
Okay. Well, thank you for coming. You thanked us so much, but we need to thank you. And I'm honored by you being here with us tonight. And what you're doing at your age, already starting off as a leader, is very inspiring. And I'm looking forward to seeing you here some more times and seeing what's happening at your school and what you have in store for us.
I also like to congratulate you also for doing so well and being a leader and so young. So you keep it up and we'll see more of you because you're going to do great things in your lifetime, we know. And just thank you for caring about everybody else. So.
Congratulations and thank you. We are showing appreciation for you as well, and keep the ideas and the motivation coming. If you hit a challenge or a brick wall, it seems like you have good support around you, and know that your community supports you too. So we also look forward to seeing big things that you're going to do in the future. Congratulations.
Thank you for your humility. I love how you thanked your family. You're definitely well-rounded, and you've got a solid foundation that continues to lift you up. I love your spirit and your smile, and I look forward to seeing it more. Congratulations again.
We also have a certificate for you, Natalie, as well.
Natalie?
So congratulations again, Vicente and Natalie. I just want to give another, just want to say congratulations again and best of luck on the coming year. Next item is item 7A, communications, board member acknowledgement and commendations. I'll let Ms. Laguiare start first.
I probably have acknowledgements that unfortunately have been suppressed to the holiday season, so hopefully the memory will come back at some point. But today the superintendent and I were able to attend the 4th Annual Coalition for Safe Schools and Communities breakfast. And it was very impressive to hear our new county superintendent, Nancy McGee, share her keynote and speak of her unfortunate incident that she had in 2001 in San Diego, to share of the shooting there that she experienced, which, you know, was one of the many reasons that led her to do this work here in our district. And please correct me, Superintendent Vidalis, if I got it wrong, but I think they said it was one student in every 8 days, or was it that was being was a victim of gun violence or an incident in the schools. 1 in 8. That shook me to know that this is the state that we live in, that our children and the families of these children in our communities now have to worry about this very overwhelming and daunting statistic. 1 in 8, 1 in every 8 days is being impacted by this form of violence at their schools. And what's happening in the county with this coalition is quite amazing. But what was shared today is there are many partners who still need to be at the table. And I think it's important that if you're not already doing something to be a part of it, that you talk to the superintendent and that we figure out how to talk to more parents. Because the other example that was shared, and being a parent of many kids, it's important because I've had that same experience too. We have to be able to discern to what degree we do with the information that our children bring home. Because what was shared was Johnny comes home and says, I heard something happened, or I heard this kid is about to do something. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't come true, which is great when they don't. But the reality is that some of those stories that children shared with their parents did come true, and they were on the news. And some of the parents that minimized the news that they got and did not share, unfortunately, we saw the repercussions of that. So whether small or unsure, we should definitely always facilitate that communication with our children and the powers that be, because it's always better to be safe than sorry. So I hope that we remember that statistic and that we continue to value the great work that is happening and be involved. Thank you.
I agree. I wish I had my December calendar with me so that I can remember what went on just a month ago. But there was, I did attend the LCAP session last week at Ben Franklin, and I originally intended to attend as a parent, but was told that I need to just step back because I sit on the board. So I wasn't able to participate, but I was able to observe. And there were several charts all around the cafeteria room where participants were able to basically grade how the district was doing, 1 being a not good grade and 5 being the best. And I saw a lot of 5s, a couple of 4s, but I didn't see any 1s. So great, that means that we're doing a great job, but it also means that we got a lot of work ahead of us as well, because now we need to really weed out what needs improvement. So it was good to see the beginning stages of that. So that's all.
Okay. Well, let's see. I don't remember some of the things we did. Some things I did miss because I had my husband to take care of. But anyway, one thing I did go to, and it was, I attended JFK's cleanup around their school facility, and it was sponsored by Kaiser Permanente. And it was great seeing all kinds of folks there together, working as a team to make our schools look better. It also encompassed it, since the property of Home Sweet Home was right next to it, they also did that, cutting off the, it was real kind of comical, because the person that I was with said, how do you know how to cut that bush? You know, here's this lady all dressed up. How do you know how to cut that bush? She goes, they told me to follow the little line. It's like a little piece of cord. And she goes, I don't know if I'm doing a good job, but I'm just clipping where it is. Turned out very nice. They did a good job. So that, again, is volunteering and giving back to the community, and I thought that was really nice. So they do that at several places. I think they've done a few of our schools before. And it's nice that we keep engaging, and I keep saying that the more that we get businesses and other organizations to come and help our schools, our children learn by them, our parents learn by that, and they themselves get a lot of satisfaction of knowing they're helping our schools. because we don't have enough money to pay for all the things we would like to do for the schools or the children, and this is a way that it can be done. So that was a great thing. And I liked some of the things you were talking about, and I just wanted to say that parents, whoever's listening, need to be sure that when they hear something, that they go beyond just hearing it. Sometimes someone starts doing something small, and you think, oh, they're just kids, they'll grow out of it, but they don't. And I do think that we need to watch carefully, because we have, unfortunately, whether it's children, whether it's our neighbors, or whether it's just other people in general, there's a lot of mental health that's not being taken care of right now, and that's where the violence is. So as people, we need to be able to try to work together and do what we can, so that I think the violence will stop somewhat when we can take care of mental health. So that's my big thing for the year. Okay.
Yes, I'd like to commend Ms. McCulick and all the student services people for all the great work that you're doing to enhance our students' learning through not just academics, but through the socio-emotional domain. And I'm still feeling the energy from all the good things that we talked about tonight and the things that we witnessed. And it gives me hope to see our students in the way that they think and actually the way that they're behaving right now. So I'd like to, congratulate all the student services folks, but also the teachers and the counselors and principals, everyone at the schools.
I would just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, first meeting of the year.
That's right.
I also wanted to commend a couple events I attended last week. They were actually two winter concerts, one at Benjamin Franklin. They had their glee club as well as their musical ensemble performing. And then Fernando had their guitar club, guitar group, as well as intermediate, beginners, and advanced musicians perform, and they did a great job. So just want to thank the teachers and staff for helping them do a great job. Next item is item 7B, correspondence and superintendent comments.
Thank you. A couple things. I too want to comment on the excellent, or the wonderful window, I should say, into how our schools are building better citizens. That is one of our goals in our mission statement. And it's great to see students building empathy in the context of their community. They come to us with lots of strengths. Their parents have worked with them over the years to help them build empathy for others, but to be able to apply it in situations that these students did and have that opportunity to do that, seeing that was really inspiring as well for me. So thank you, Louisa, for helping to organize that, or Ms. Santos for helping organize that, and I know that it's happening at many of our different schools, and we'd like to see more of that. The other thing I wanted to make you aware of, and I'll pass this around once I'm done, because I don't have a copy for myself. You've heard many times over the last year that we've been working with the community, Californians dedicated to education, and they've worked with our schools to help us in our parent involvement and parent activities. And 4 schools participated last year. It was Daniel Webster, Westlake, Woodrow Wilson, and T.R. Policita. So at the end of their grant year, they wrote a report on what they learned around successful engagement practices, and they highlighted one of our schools in their report. There are 4 districts, I think, in San Mateo County who were part of the grant, and they took one school in each district, and one of our schools was highlighted. So I'm going to pass this around for you to read, not just about Daniel Webster School and what they learned and are trying and putting into practice, but about what the other schools across the county are doing as well.
Thank you. Next item is item 7C, administrator comments.
Oh, I just want to say clearly I missed something very powerful. And yeah, I will watch the tape. But just hearing what you all had to say, and that gentleman and young lady who came up to the podium there. And I just want to wish everybody Happy New Year. It's hard to believe that it's already 1 month over almost.
I just want to wish everyone a Happy New Year, and I appreciate how our district celebrates excellence and civic excellence, as well as just to remind everyone next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, February 2nd, we're going to have our STEM fair at Fernando Rivera and Thomas Edison, but the main event is in Fernando Rivera at 10 a.m. to celebrate excellence in STEM.
Is that February?
February 2nd, Saturday, February 2nd.
So I'm fortunate enough to be spending the next couple of days with colleagues from the negotiating team, both the management and labor side, attending a conference called the Center for School Improvement, or CSI. It's a leadership institute sponsored by American Federation of Teachers. And the focus really is on improving school culture and climate by engaging stakeholders in productive and collaborative teams. We've been working together. This is my third time in the last 5 years, I believe we've come back with an action plan. It's just a really good way to engage with our partners, and it helps in the end making folks more comfortable having difficult conversations about students, about each other, about all those things we have to talk about. So it's been great.
Cool, thank you. Next item is item 7D, persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. Are there any speaker cards? No. Okay. So next item is item 8A, general functions. 8A is consent agenda. The administration recommends approval of the starred items on the rest of the agenda. Is there anyone wants to point the item, or if not, make a motion?
G. Can we pull G off?
Okay. 8G.
8G. Yeah. I know there is.
Any other items? If there are none, would like someone to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addendum.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That was unanimous. So next item is item 8F, 2019-2020 school calendar. The administration recommends adoption of the 2019-2020 school calendar as presented. This calendar has been determined as part of the district calendar committee process and is in alignment with the Jefferson Union High School district calendar.
What's that little bell? Was it you? Oh. What's that?
No, okay, cool.
Oh.
Looking for a motion?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion if there are no questions or comments.
Where are we at?
I have a question. I didn't check the Jefferson Union High School. Are we any closer to being aligned?
We are for the large vacation periods. The winter break and I believe the spring break are aligned, but each of our districts has smaller vacations and days off that that's very difficult to align, but for the long ones, we are.
Okay.
And certainly they start 2 weeks before us as well, so that's not
Thank
aligned.
you. We're making progress.
Yes.
But could you explain, because we're not there to hear the discussion, why do they start 2 weeks before, and why do we not start 2 weeks before, or either way?
The reason that the high school district starts so early, they want to finish the semester prior to the winter break, so that the students are done with their semester by the winter break. Second reason is many of the teachers who teach the advanced placement courses, though they want to get as much teaching time in before the tests are given in May. Why do we not start? That is an item that is negotiated, and when we negotiate and discuss with our staff, everyone wants to start later and end earlier, but nobody wants to start earlier and end later. So we need to negotiate what's a good start date for us. The high school gets back usually the first week in August, and we start second or third week, depending on the year.
And they end when?
They end right about Memorial Day, sometimes a little bit after Memorial Day, but usually the Friday before Memorial Day.
The problem is, and what I hear is that families are split up that way because they have children both in high schools as well as in the elementary. And it's really hard on them. So they're not getting vacations. They're babysitting. So,
Yeah.
I just think that it used to be years and years ago, I know I always say that, it used to be years ago, but it was, we were exactly on the same step. So if we can collaborate with the high school district in advance and try to do what's the right thing for children, let's get it together.
So just to clarify though, we have the long breaks that are aligned and that helps the families, but this start dates, that has to do with the negotiations with the teachers. So
I understand that, but,
that wouldn't, that doesn't really,
We can certainly bring the sentiment when we speak again, and we can discuss with our high school colleagues around those issues.
So the other thing would be to check to see how many children are out of school during that time because they're being watched by their older siblings or something. So sometimes it means the children are not going to be in the classes. So they've got to look at that as well.
Yeah.
So be nice to get together.
If there are no more comments or questions, anyone make a motion on this item?
Thank you for the debate. Before I make a motion, I do want to say that, as mentioned, it would be great just to make the mention to see. I love that we have made progress, and I know since I've been on the board, this has always been a big issue, and so any closer to aligning it as much as possible I'm very grateful. I know I've been stuck in that position, so I make a motion to approve the 2019-2020 school calendar.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That's unanimous.
Can I just offer, I know we already voted, but for next year, even if we close the gap even by a week, it would still be better. I know it's 2 right now, but even a week would still be better.
Next item is item 8G. Fiscal year 2017-2018 financial audit report and 2018-2019 first interim financial report for CAVA at Semteo. CAVA at Semteo's 2017-2018 financial audit report and 2018-2019 first interim report are being provided to the board for information. All reports are reviewed by the Jefferson Elementary School District's Business Department and are approved by the CAVA Board of Trustees and submitted to the Semteo County Office of Education for review and approval. The administration recommends the governing board acknowledge receipts of these reports.
Oh, it's a
yeah, I asked for this to be pulled, excuse me, not specifically for that report, but just there's new laws about charter schools. I was just reading this, but I kind of lost exactly what the new law is. Maybe someone else read it too. But I was just wondering if we are aware of that and if we've checked to see if CAVA is in line with the new laws.
Yeah, the new laws that were passed, the ones I'm aware of at least, are around public accountability. So being subject to the Brown Act, being subject to Public Records Act requests. Many of the public accountability aspects that school districts are subject to, now charter schools need to be. It was unclear before if they were or they were not. It was expected they would be, but it was not explicitly stated. So not all charters abided. So now that's what was passed.
I think, actually I remember now, there was another law about it being illegal to have a charter school that's run by a for-profit management agency.
Yes.
So I wanted us to check into that too.
Yeah, we will continue to look into that, but it's very easy to be a nonprofit organization because all you do is pay your employees more or you invest in something else. So we work within what we can do as we review these reports. Again, this is provided to the board as information. The board plays no role in accepting this. The business office reviews them, makes sure that they meet the criteria that are necessary, and the County Office of Education also reviews them. And we can discuss that question again when the board, if the charter school reapplies for us to renew the charter, then we can look at that question. So that was for charter renewals and charter initial acceptances. So we can revisit the question that Mr. Ali brought up at that point. And it should be probably in the next year, I'm imagining. It's every 5 years, I think.
Can we get ahead of them asking to renew and let them know that we require them to give us those records or whatever that falls in line with the new laws?
Oh, of course, that's all part of the application, so, yeah.
Thank you.
You're good.
So we would need a motion to accept receipt, or acknowledge receipt, I suppose.
Well, I'll make a motion that we acknowledge receipt of the financial audit report from CAVA, charter school in our area.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That was unanimous.
Aye.
Next item is item H. Administrative appointments 2018-2019. The administration recommends approval of the following administrative appointments. Jose Sanchez, Vice Principal at Fernando Vera Middle School, effective January 7th, 2019, 1M WOMA, Step 2. And Catherine Armstrong, Dean of Academics at John F. Kennedy School, effective February 1st, 2019, 1M WOMA, Step 1. And both are salary prorated to start date.
I move that we approve the following administrative appointments for Jose Sanchez. How do you pronounce this?
I don't know. IMWOM.
Oh, that one.
That is the salary schedule step. We probably should change that to something that we can all understand. IMWA does not mean anything to me.
What was it supposed to be?
It's a code for the salary schedule because once the board approves it, then our business office enters that code into the payment system.
A code like that?
That's what we have.
It looks like you spelled woman wrong.
Okay, step 2, salary prorated from start date. And Catherine Armstrong, effective February 1st. Excuse me, the first one is effective January 7th for Jose Sanchez, and then for Catherine Armstrong, effective February 1st, 2019. And that one is step 1, salary prorated to start date.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous, and congratulations. I see Mr. Sanchez, at least.
Yeah, we have Mr. Sanchez and Ms.
I'll let
Armstrong.
Mr. Sanchez go first since he's first on the agenda.
Come on up.
So just want to say thank you to all the board members and to our district leadership for giving me this opportunity. I'm very appreciative, and I look forward to contributing to the continued success of our staff and students at Fernando Rivera Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Catherine Armstrong, would you like to speak?
Yes, I just echo what Jose said. I've worked in the district for over 25 years, and it's been a joy. So I really look forward to this new position at John F. Kennedy. Actually, I'm coming back home to John F. Kennedy. So I was actually there for 17 years, so it's nice to be back.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. Next item is item 8I, tentative agreement between the Jefferson Elementary School District and AFT 3267 for 2018-2019. The administration recommends approval of the tentative agreement and MOUs for the 2018-2019 school year between AFT Local 3267 and the Jefferson Elementary School District, pending AB 1200 approval by the San Mateo County Office of Education. The agreement effective July 1st, 2018 includes a 1% salary increase on the salary schedule, a 1% one-time bonus, and other agreements on stipends, dues deduction, authorizations, hours of employment, leaves of absences, and class size as specified in the attached tentative agreement and MOUs. These agreements represent the conclusion of the 2018-2019 negotiations between AFT 3267 and the Jefferson Elementary School District.
I have no questions. I want to make the motion to approve the tentative agreement between Jefferson Elementary School District and AFT 3267 for 2018-2019.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next item is item 8J, salary increase for unrepresented, certificated, and confidential classified employees, psychologists, management, assistant superintendents, and superintendent. The administration recommends approval pending AB 1200 approval by the San Mateo County Office of Education of a 1% salary increase to the salary schedules and a 1% one-time bonus to unrepresented, certificated, and confidential classified employees, psychologists, management, assistant superintendents, and superintendent effective July 1st, 2018.
I move that we approve the salary increases for the unrepresented, certificated, and confidential classified employees.
I'll second it.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next item is item 8K, Governing Board Stipend Increase. The Governing Board will consider adjusting the Governing Board's monthly stipend with an increase of 1% from $265.20 to $267.85 per month, effective July 1st, 2018.
Who's next?
We really need $2.65 a month. This has always been an embarrassment. Silly.
I make a motion. I make a motion to accept the increase, which is always greatly appreciated here in the Bay Area,
Don't buy nothing.
for the Governing Board stipend increase.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Some tea, a cup of tea.
No one buy Are you kidding? No way.
Next item is item 8L, fiscal year 2017-2018 annual financial audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2018. Joyce Peters, audit partner with Vavrinick Trine Dane Company LLP, will be in attendance to summarize the results of the annual financial audit of the district. The administration recommends acceptance and approval of the financial statement for the 2017-2018 fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018, as submitted by the auditing firm.
Good evening, board members. We have audited the district, Jefferson School District's financial statement as of June 30, 2018. We conducted this audit in accordance with governmental auditing standards and also auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, and also K-12 state compliance audit guide and uniform guidance for your federal compliance. The result of our audit, it's documented on page 94 of your audit report. That's a summary of 3 opinions we're issuing. The first one is financial statements. The financial statements, we have a modified report. That means it's a clean audit. We didn't have any material weakness or significant deficiency identified. We also don't have any audit adjustments, with the exception of the implementation of GASB 75. That one cost the district, we have to restate your beginning balance to right now approximately $7.6 million. The reason of such a big difference is because the GASB 75, they changed how the actuarial evaluate your OPEB liability. Okay, and then as a result, we also modified your footnotes, which is, you can tell the whole footnote on note 13 of your total post-employment benefits, and the detail is there. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to give me a call and I can explain more detail. So that's probably the difference and new result of new implementation of GASB 75. All others, your financial report is consistent with the prior year. Not much changes. Next one is the state compliance audit. For the state compliance audit, if you look at page 91, there's a list of all the compliance we have to audit. There's more state compliance that district have to adhere to, but we only required by the state audit guide to audit the list listed on page 91 of all these state compliance. Our opinion, it's modified for all state compliance except duplicate student counts, and that the detail is listed on the last page. Then page 97, the result is because that when this district accounting for their free and reduced students, there's some errors, and then we selected of the sample we selected, we find out there's 5 errors, and then so that as a result, we actually asked the school district re-examine them, and then they actually go back and look through 100%. So the results, we only drop like a 42.42% of your duplicate student percentage, and this will cost you. Your question cost is approximately $59,000. Okay. Other than that, any question on state compliance? Okay. So next one is the federal compliance. Federal compliance, we usually rotate the major program. Major program is any federal grant you receive more than $750,000. And for your district, you only have a special ed, child nutrition, and Title I is over this limit. So we usually just rotate it. And major program, they require we audit it every 3 years. So we kind of rotated. This year we audit child nutrition, and we didn't have any exception noted. So it's also a clean audit. That's it. Any questions on these 3 reports? Okay. So actually the regulations kind of encourage we have two-way communication. So if you later on you find out there's any questions or you have any concerns, feel free to give me a call. And Julie has my numbers, and I'm more than happy to give you a detailed walkthrough and the or explanations. Next one is the 2012 Major I. This is the result of 2012 elections. The elections authorized the district to issue 67.5 million bonds. Of all these amounts, it's all been issued. Of this amount, the district spent 10 million last year, 10.2 million, and then leaving 9.3 for the next year to spend. Of these amounts, we also select 7 million to test, which is approximately 69% of the total expenditures. We didn't have any exceptions. This Major I, we have 2. It's just, it looked like one, but it's actually 2 reports. In the beginning, the bigger part is the financial report. At the end, only like a few pages, that's performance report. The difference between financial report and performance report is when we do the financial report, we basically look at the recording, see if the recording, the cutoff date is proper, if there's unrecorded liability, and if it's recorded in proper category. For the financial, for the performance report, we actually pull out all the invoices, and we look at the balance if it's spending according to the ballot language. We didn't have any exceptions. So it's a clean audit as well. And finally, I'd like to thank your business department for their patience with us, and they are very efficient to give us the stuff whenever we have asked for the schedules or some verification document and pull out the invoices. They all give us within a week that while we are there, so enable us to finish actually the report on time. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? If none, I will entertain, we can take an action on this item, so if anyone wants to make a motion on the item.
Thank you very much for sharing that, and I would like to make a motion to approve the annual financial audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2018.
I'll second the motion.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item is item 8M, Board Resolution Number 19-01-23A, resolution of the Board of Education of the Jefferson Elementary School District entering the election results into the minutes and certifying to the Board of Supervisors of San Mateo County all proceedings in the November 6, 2018 general obligation bond election. The administration recommends adoption of Board Resolution Number 19-01-23A, resolution of the Board of Education of the Jefferson Elementary School District entering election results into the minutes and certifying to the Board of Supervisors of the San Mateo County all proceedings in the November 6, 2018 general obligation bond election.
No one has any questions? I will make the motion to approve the Board Resolution Number 19-01-23A, resolution of the Board of Education of the Jefferson Elementary School District entering the election results into the minutes and certifying to the Board of Supervisors of San Mateo County all proceedings in the November 6, 2018 Go Bond election.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous.
Resolution should be a roll call.
Oh, is it roll call or no?
Yes.
Okay.
We could do roll call,
Can we
but
get-
let's do roll call.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Stay consistent.
Mr. Ali?
Here, yes.
Mrs. Brizuela?
Yes.
Miss Manio? Yes. Miss Leah Inga Anuai?
Yes.
Mr. Koo?
Yes. Okay, that was unanimous. Next item is item 9D, Local Control Accountability Plan updates. The Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, is an accountability plan that requires districts to disclose how local control funding formula, LCFF funds, are spent to provide high-quality education programs. Jefferson Elementary School District administration will share updates on the California School Dashboard in the 2019-2020 LCAP development. Mr. Kulik.
Thank you. Good evening. So the purpose tonight is to share highlights from the results from the recent release of the California dashboard, as well as our local benchmarks. We have a lot of data to share, but I just pulled a few highlights, and I can share more in our information bulletin this week if you're interested. And it's really to highlight the progress on our goals. So to remind you of our, actually, can you hand me my glasses?
What a meeting tonight.
I can't.
This is funny.
I have them memorized, but it'll get harder later. So to monitor the progress on our 4 goals, improving student learning outcomes, providing professional learning for all staff, promoting positive school climate, and increasing community engagement. We have a lot of data on all of those goals, so tonight I'm only going to highlight Goal 1, student learning outcomes, and Goal 3, promote positive school climate. I'll come back another day and share the other 2. Just a reminder, this slide you've seen many times, the Local Control Accountability Plan is the plan districts are required to use to disclose how we're spending our local control funding formula funds. And so the plan is divided into 8 state priority areas with falling into 3 categories: conditions of learning, pupil outcomes, and engagement. So one of the ways that the state is holding districts accountable in this LCAP is through the California School Dashboard. So that's the link if anyone wants to go and check out for the schools. You can see our district as well as any district in the state of California, progress towards those priority areas from the previous slide. How they've changed the look. They wanted to make it more user-friendly for parents, so they really kind of simplified it, made it parent-friendly. So they changed the color label or how it looks from that little pie graph to now a gauge. And so blue is highest performance down to red. Green is the goal as for all the areas. It's the target in those state indicators. And then red and orange is where you really want to pay attention and see what we need to do. How the colors are determined is through this chart, this grid. And so on the left side, it's a status. So whatever the category is, you have your status. And then across the top is the change, increasing or decreasing from the previous year. And so then you meet together to find your color. So this is a screenshot of our district's dashboard. You can see that there's colors in 4 of the 6 areas. The 2 that say none are only at the high school level, so it's graduation rate and college and career readiness. So we are only scored by the dashboard on those 4 areas. If you look across the top, it says student groups. You can see down the left side all the different student groups from all students to 2 and more races. So it's ethnic groups as well as English learners, homeless, foster youth, etc. Students with disabilities. And then across the top, it says chronic absenteeism, so you can see every student group and the color coding. So this is just a simplified version. They give us the scores and everything, but this really just highlights the areas that we need to pay attention to and where we have some highlights of strength. The next column is suspension rate, and then we jump over those 2 that have no data to our academic, English language arts and math. So you can see we have red in our African American students with suspension, and we have red with our Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander in chronic absenteeism. You look over to our academic areas, you see a lot of orange. We've just adopted a new math curriculum, so we're anticipating that will change, and we're working towards ELA. We've adopted a new ELA curriculum in 6th through 8th, and we're in the process of piloting, which you'll see in April, a recommendation. But we want to pay attention to those academic areas because that is where we have more of the orange. And so I want to explain to you how we get those academic colors. So it's a little complicated, so I'm going to try to draw it out for you a little. So every student gets a scale score, and so this is an example of one grade level. Every grade level has a different scale. Level 3, oh, the pointer doesn't work on the screens.
I saw it.
I'll have to describe better.
Awesome.
This doesn't work on the screen. Yeah. Oh, no, it works. It was just the red. Sorry, I can see it up here, but not here. So if you take a look, you can see that the scale score is divided into 4 chunks, and the one that's highlighted is level 3. And so the level 3 is met standard, and the one above it is level 4, is exceeded standard. So what they're looking for when they're identifying that, academic indicators is they want to see the distance from level 3. So the lowest of level 3 for this particular grade level example is 2531. So for example, if a student scored in the orange there, student scored 2502. This is 29 points below the lowest possible score for level 3, which is 2531. So the DF3, or distance from level 3, for this student is negative 29 points. So let's look at an example. Let's say there's 6 students, and each of these students, we have distance from level 3. So for the first student, if they're plus 6, in this example, they would be 2537. That's 6 points above the lowest possible score for level 3. And then another student, you can see minus 13, which means they're 2518, 13 points below level 3. So what they do is they take all of the distances from level 3 for every student at that grade level in the school, and then they divide by the total number of students, and they get a total score. That becomes your status. And then across the top is, did we have higher points towards level 3, lower points, etc.? That gives your change. So that gets our color. Very simplified. It's quite complicated. If you want more explanation, I can share with you later. I believe attached to the backup document, I put a little flyer that explains it as well from the State Department. So now we want to take a look at our local data. So that was last year's CASP compared to the year before. So now we want to see, well, what do we anticipate for this year? So we looked at our current cohort of 3rd through 8th grade students, because those are the students that will be taking the CASP this year. So we took our local benchmark data for reading, and we wanted to look year to year. So that same cohort of students, how did they score? How many students were meeting standard or on track in the fall of 2018 compared to the fall of 2017? And so last year they were 2nd through 7th graders. So it's the same group of students. So last year in the fall, 32% of our students were on track or meeting standard. And according to our analysis, this assessment has an 82% correlation to CASP. If students met standard on this, most likely they met standard on CASP. So we're pretty confident with seeing these results. So 32% met standard last year in the fall, and now 40% of those same students met standard in the fall of this year. So that's an 8% increase of that same group of students fall to fall. You look at winter to winter, so they just took it right before the holidays. We do see that from fall to winter, because the target keeps moving, that fewer, there was a little slight dip from fall to winter, but when we look winter to winter, 2017, same cohort to 2018, we see a 9% increase. So we're seeing an uptick, we're seeing a trend that more students are showing that they're on track for meeting grade level standards. Now, this is the students that we're pretty guaranteed that they're going to show meet standard on CASP. We have another group of students that could show join this group as well. So they're kind of on the bubble. And so we're just showing who we know for sure. We're pretty confident that these students will meet standard. For math, we did not give the test to every student group last year. So we only gave it to 6th through 8th grade. And so we can only look at the current 7th and 8th grade students to see year-to-year comparison. So you look at winter to winter for our current 7th and 8th grade, so how they did in 6th and 7th grade last year, we're already seeing a 13% increase of students that are on track. So we're seeing some positive results. We're hoping this trend continues. And then you can see our goal in blue for math, for ELA, English Language Arts, and our goal for math on the CASP, how many students we hope to increase to proficiency. So not only do we want to look at all students, we want to, like on the dashboard, we want to look at all of our student groups. So this is by ethnicity. So you can see this is our winter to winter, winter 2017 to winter 2018, 3rd through 8th grade cohort. So this is that predictability piece we want to see. And so you can see the lighter blue bar is 2017 winter results on our benchmark, local benchmark assessment, and the brighter blue bar is this year. So you're already seeing an increase in the percent of students, the same cohort of students that are showing that they're on track. And so it's a pretty big jump from the previous year. And then math, like I said, we can't compare year to year, so we're comparing fall to winter. And as I said, the target for meeting on track keeps moving as you go through the year. So it does get harder to stay on track. But we're not seeing a huge dip, and we actually are seeing growth with our African American students. Still quite low, but they are the only group that actually had some growth. So that's promising as well. And this is our 3rd through 8th grade, same cohort, but it's only this current year. Any questions so far? Moving on, so more student groups. So this is our English learners, reclassified, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and our special ed students with disabilities, students with IEPs. So you can see this is the top in blue is our reading data. That's winter 2017 to winter 2018. So most of our students were seeing growth. Our English learners, I believe some newcomers are included, and they don't normally take the reading CASP. So that one we're going to look at more closely to see the accuracy of that compared to what it should be for CASP. And then the same chart for those student groups for math. And so you can see it's hovering right around the same area. Okay, so that's all our academic, our goal 1, student learning outcomes. So now we're going to jump to goal 3, which is our school climate, positive school climate. So there's 2 areas that we look at, suspension and chronic absenteeism. So you can see what we want is we want the bar to go lower, to go that way. And so the yellow is year to date. And so in suspensions, not all of our elementary sites are reported yet. And that number will only increase. Our chronic absenteeism, however, can decrease because chronic absenteeism means a student is absent 10% or more of the year. So if you have 180 school days, 10% is 18 days. And so each day they attend, then that means that their rate of chronic absenteeism could decrease. The blue bar for chronic absenteeism is our local data. We did have a data error, which you'll see in a minute, that kind of inflated that number. And so it is corrected this year, but we weren't able to correct it on the state reporting websites. To give you a little more deeper analysis to suspensions, give you an idea of, well, who are this number, where does this come from? That number represents for all students in 2017-18, 143 students, which is 2.2% of our population. If a student is suspended more than once, they're only counted once. And this is in-school suspension and out-of-school suspension. So that's kind of lumped together, which is, you can see the rate and the number of students has decreased from the previous year. We are in a declining enrollment, so our denominator has shifted. We have fewer students. And so you'll see some of the percentages seem a little different, but the number of students has reduced. You'll see by this chart, we group them by grade span, K3, 4, 6, and 7, 8. Most of our suspensions, of course, happen at the middle school level, and very few happen in K3. But you can see where the numbers are, and so thinking about where we want to put our resources and efforts. And then this is a similar chart to the academic where, except instead of going up, we want to go down. And so this is the suspension rate by ethnicity. For some reason, my charts didn't fill out the whole name of all of my student groups, but you get the idea. There is an asterisk, so any student group that has less than 65 students, you see that because any small student group, any change in population greatly changes the percent or the rate. But you can see our African American student group is still pretty high, although it is lower, but this rate will only go up as the year goes on. It will not go down, so we have to really monitor it, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And as I said earlier, not all elementary sites have reported yet, so some of these data may change when that's all up to date. For the year to date in yellow. And then this is the other student groups, like the similar charts earlier, English learners. We do not have local data on the foster youth and homeless yet, so we don't have that data displayed. But we also want to reduce, but so you can see the numbers are lower. Now, chronic absenteeism, the blue bar, this is the data error that I was talking about. By an error, we had included the truant tardies, and that should not have been included, so that just jumped up our rate. So that is actually inaccurate, but the state wouldn't let us change it on the data reporting. But you can see in the red, that's accurate for 17-18, and then our year-to-date. And as I said, if we do something, that could go lower. And so you see our different student groups and how their attendance rate is. And same with our other student groups. Like I said, foster youth and homeless we do not have, but they are less than 80 students. So it is a small cohort. Our African American student group as well as our Pacific Islander student group are also quite small. They're under 100. So any fluctuation does affect the percent and the rate. So what are we doing about it? This is the more important piece. What are the interventions in place? So we're looking at, when we think about the gaps of our student groups, our African Americans, our Pacific Islanders, that have those gaps on that first chart I showed you with the red. What we're doing is we're focusing on suspension and chronic absenteeism for those groups. So you can see what we're looking at in the charts. There's that one up above where it says suspension rates for African American. It's 78 students this year for all grade levels. And so it was 9.8 in 17-18, the suspension rate, and right now it's 5.1. Remember, not all schools are reporting, but we're working with sites and principals. We're asking them to report to us what they're doing to support those students, and making sure that we're thinking of alternatives. Our Student Services Department with Stephanie Martinez and Luisa Santos are working directly with the schools to help support our students, especially our highest need students. And as you've seen from the LCAP, we have contracted with Circle Up Education. They're supporting our positive behavior intervention supports, supporting school site leaders in those areas to provide supports with setting up the school-wide systems, as well as providing direct support with some of the, with admin to help with those high-need students with alternatives, so that we don't have to go to suspension, that we have alternatives. Regarding chronic absenteeism, we're also working directly with sites with how do we message to families and having that communication piece of importance of attending school. To address the academic indicators, we have a lot of things in place, and so, which I think is showing in our benchmark data. We are using this new online tool in our TK through 5th grade, which is called Lexia. It's a reading program that focuses on reading skills and interventions, but all students have access to it in those grade levels, and we're seeing a lot of growth in progress towards mastering reading skills and meeting grade level standards. So we're hoping that that is one piece that's really going to help boost our students' proficiency in English language arts. We also have adopted, as I mentioned earlier, 2 new math programs, one in TK through 5 and one in 6 through 8. And there is actually an intervention program with the TK through 5 program that we are rolling out at all the school sites as well to help support students that need that extra support. And then we also have a new English language arts program in 6th through 8th grade. And then this year we're piloting a new English language arts program in TK5. We'll be coming to you in April for your approval, and then we'll be implementing it next year. And then we're also piloting in 6th through 8th grade history, social science. Our science is coming soon, but it wasn't, the state just released the adoption, so we're going to start doing the piloting next year. But you can see we have a lot in progress. This is just highlights. We have more that we're doing as well, and we'll be sharing that at a later date when we talk about Goal 2 with professional development. So, wrapping it up, the LCAP process, you can just see the overview. We're in the January-February stage where we're collecting input. We just had, as Ms. Manio said, we had our ILT, Instructional Leadership Team meeting last Wednesday with every school site had one or more parents attend, had the posters around the room, asked for rating effectiveness of each action item, over 100 actions, and then also giving us information on what actions that we need to really look at to see is it effective. And so we also have them up at the district office. We have open sessions. So we had 90 plus people attend and give input at the ILT, and as of today we had 40 additional folks come to the open sessions, and it's open till Friday. So people are coming in. We were in the meeting in there, and we had a group of people come in at that point too, and we said, just go ahead, look around. It's self-paced, so people can give their input. And we just thought it would be better this year to keep it open so people had a chance to come and do it on their own. And so you can just see then we'll be, once we receive that input, we'll be going back to stakeholders, asking for input on prioritizing some of the actions, whether we should keep them or not. And then in April, we'll be presenting a draft to the community as well as sharing highlights to you at a board meeting. In May, we bring it to our required committees. Along the way, of course, I'm presenting to you, and then in June, we bring the final draft, and the San Mateo County Office of Education supports us along the way with making sure that they will be approving it once they receive it after your approval. And so I divided into 2 slides, all the stakeholder meeting dates. So this is the first slide where we show in dark bold in black and bold is the are the dates that are coming up for the different stakeholder groups, and then the ones that are light blue have already happened. So you can see lots of meetings occur for stakeholder input, and then our next group, these are the ones that are really kind of upcoming. And so I kind of mentioned all those dates in the previous slide. So, that's the last slide. Any questions for me? A lot of information, I know.
Wow.
This is not all of it. This is just highlights.
The question I have is that when you try to seek out to get the parents' input, is it really low? I mean, when you said, the
Parent
numbers you
input?
said? Yeah.
Well, we asked for parent leaders from every site for the ILT. We didn't open it up to all parents.
Oh, okay.
So it was intentional to have a parent leader represent. And I forgot to mention in my announcements, we are having the PIAC meeting where we'll be looking at this on February 5th at the district office. So we will be getting parent input. And we've been having a good turnout lately, probably about 20 folks, which is pretty high for us.
So when you have a leader per school or however you're saying, do they engage with the other parents?
We had them sit with their school site because we wanted to make sure the school site principals and teachers were able to explain some of the jargon.
No, I didn't mean that. I mean, when you they always pick someone to represent a group, but do they somehow reach out to the rest of them to get input to represent them, or are they just representing themselves?
Well, some of them are the leaders of their parent organization, so they might be the PTA president, they might be on the school site council, so they do represent, in those capacities, they represent the sentiments of their school.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
I had a small question about, I think it was slide 11. Let me see, I could be wrong.
This one?
Sorry, 18.
You really jumped over.
There you go, okay. So, developing plans, the first bullet point under suspensions and chronic, developing plans with school sites, what, are those plans called something, or, okay.
So every school site administrator has a leadership plan, and they're related to each of our 4 goals. And within those goals, they set SMART goals. And so school climate, suspension, they look at their data to see what is, where their areas of strength and where their areas of improvement, and then they set a SMART goal for their area of improvement. And then they set leadership actions as well as monitoring progress. And so that's been, we've been doing that for years, but it's been enhanced this year to really match this process.
Right.
It's that whole continuous improvement where you try to find what is the root cause, test it out.
Okay,
And,
so it's all based on data. I remember, okay. Very detailed, sounds great.
We always have an answer for you.
Okay, that was it.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. Next item is item 10C, affidavit of the governing board affirming that the foregoing statements on Form J13A, request for allowance of attendance due to emergency conditions. The administration recommends that the board approve the affidavit confirming that the foregoing statements from Form J13A, request for allowance of attendance due to emergency conditions, air quality due to campfire, are true and based on official records. Mr. Vidal, would you have to just kind of give a summary of that?
Yeah, so if you remember, we closed our schools for one day, and in order for us to be able to request funding for that day due to an emergency condition, this is the form we need to submit to the State Department of Education. And I think the way it works is an average of the Friday before and the Friday after. Is that correct?
Actually, what they do, if the whole school is closed, they decrease the denominator.
Okay, so at the end, that
Instead of 180 days, they'll make it 179.
179, yep.
Makes sense.
So if you miss 2 days and they charge you 1?
No, they just subtract for each day that we weren't open.
The whole day?
So as you may have heard, a district like Los Angeles, who just endured a 6-day strike and students stayed home, they do not qualify for an emergency waiver for their attendance. And so they lost about $130 million over those 6 days. That's 3 times our our district budget.
I don't have any questions. This is something we had to do, so I would like to make a motion unless there are any other comments. Okay, I will make the motion to approve the affidavit of the Governing Board affirming that the foregoing statements of Form J13A, request for allowance of attendance due to emergency conditions.
Second motion?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
And so the next one I can just pop ahead is a similar declaration, but for our preschool students only. They're funded in a separate formula, so we need to do two separate declarations.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the resolution to approve the state preschool closure on November 16, 2018.
Second the motion?
Second, all those in favor say aye.
No, we have to vote on it. It's a resolution, you have to vote.
Yeah. Okay, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Miss Manio, Miss Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Mr. Ku.
Aye. Next item is item 10E, Fernando Vera Middle School Classroom Wing Project Change Order Requests and Contingency Allowance. The administration recommends approval of the change order requests and contingency allowances for the Fernando Vera Middle School Classroom Restroom Wing project. The total amount for change orders is $44,942.95, and total contingency allowance is $92,800, as supported by the attached document. The change order work was reviewed and authorized by district staff. All contingency allowance expenditures will be reviewed and authorized by district staff. All expenditures will be paid from Measure I funds.
I have a question on that, please. What made the change orders occur? That's such a large amount of money.
I have to apologize. I left my thing. I'm grabbing everything really fast. I think you might have a hard copy there, and it shows the items for the change order. There are two change orders.
But why? I see the difference. Why? What went
I
wrong that we
remember the
had to have?
detail of that. I know at least one of them has to do with moving of a water, I don't know if it's a main or a hydrant. When we developed the plans,
Yeah,
we
that's true.
anticipated the hydrant could stay where it was. After the plans were reviewed and the job was built, we received notice from the city of Daly City that that hydrant needed to be moved, and so we needed to initiate a change order to move that. Most of these change orders, I believe, are district initiated based on preferences as a project developed, didn't work the way that it was designed.
So give me a little break on this thing. Who does that approving?
I'm sorry,
There's
who does
who
the
approves the,
Bill and I, we attend weekly. I'm sorry.
Mr.
Bill
Heath, the Director of Maintenance Operations
Hey, thank you.
Construction.
Sorry.
People don't know who Bill is, so.
We attend weekly meetings with our construction managers who are RGM, as well as the representatives from everybody who have got contracts with, to go over all the details and, what's happening. And sometimes they put in a request for information, and then, they might go down into the dirt and find something that we don't know is there. We want something different, and all this gets reviewed by us, and we either authorize them to move forward and then come to you with it, or we tell them no.
See, I understand when we had things and they didn't know there was some kind of a tank below the property when we were gonna build something. I understand that, because it was so old. But a hydrant is sticking up off the ground.
Well, it's.
I just don't understand we're spending all this extra money.
Well, it gets approved, and the city then comes back and says, no, actually, we don't want you to have it there. We get the fire department comes out, they approve everything, the city approves it, and then they change their mind along the way and say, after further investigation, no, you can't have it there, maybe the pressure is wrong, I don't know all the, everything about that, but also, for instance.
Okay, you don't have to go on anymore.
There was a cage that had to be built.
The board needs to know in the future, when we have change orders, that we need to know the why ahead of time, not just, well, maybe this happened, maybe that. I would think that in the future, could we please get this stuff? Because I've been noticing a lot of changes, work order changes, that it's increasing our cost. And I'd like to really make sure that the people that are involved in this are doing the homework ahead of time and not afterwards. So if you're saying it's the fire department's fault, then we need to write to them and that make sure that they come and evaluate things before we get stuck with something. So I just want to make sure that we follow through on some of these things that are going on.
And
Because I've seen a lot of work order
Right.
changes, and I don't want to go into it now because it's not on the agenda, but this came to my mind, and when you said fire hydrant, I said, what?
And we'll keep that in mind. We're also trying to get the facility open on a timely basis as well.
But not an additional cost.
Yeah, so the total project cost is over $1 million, and $45,000 is a small percentage of that total project cost. Usually, change orders are in the range of 10 to 15% of a project. Is that right?
Well, we can do a change order up to 10% on a particular contract. Otherwise, we would have to go out to rebid. And one of the things is that often when you do a contract, you include a contingency. And that contingency allows you to deal with these kind of things, but we did not include a contingency.
Obviously, I saw that.
And that's why the contingency is there, because this contract did not have a contingency in it, and we are starting to put the contingencies in. Now, in the past, many districts had contingencies where the contractor had kind of control over that, but we will not allow that. Every contingency we have has to be approved by us and desired by us in the project. So a lot of times contracts, they're made where the contingency is controlled by the contractor, and we do not allow that.
Well, I'm talking about this, and I guess what I'm saying is I see a lot of this stuff going on, and I would like to make sure that we're not spending more money to do something that we need to do. That's number one. And I look and see what we're doing with salaries against what we're doing on this kind of stuff. I just want to be sure that we don't spend our money foolishly, and that once we get a bid, we know that that bid is going to cover it. That's all.
Certainly.
So we don't need to discuss it any further. I think you got I'm going to look at these much closer, because I just know it's happening a lot. So we can just move on.
Ms. Kistler, I have a question. Thank you for providing us additional information. So I just want to get clarity. So when we speak to contingency, I'm seeing the total amount for allowable is 92, and we're asking for 44.9 for this. But then you mentioned something about the hydrant, was it approved before? Were the plans approved before, and now the city and/or other departments are now saying, after further review, this needs to be changed? The reason why I'm asking is that if they approved it before and now they have changed their minds, and why is it then, I don't know, I'm just asking what the policies and procedures or guidelines might be. Why then do we have to incur the cost? Because it almost seems that this is something the city might have wanted to do eventually, and because it's on our property, or we're doing this project, that we are now going to carry the costs when they initially had approved it. So I'm just concerned about that they would have, I don't know how this process works.
This doesn't go necessarily to city approval process. We're independent in a sense. The architect develops plans based on assumptions of the city has put forth. When inspections happen, when things are starting to get built, and pressure needs to be checked, I think it was a pressure issue on this one, they said, we want our hydrants to be accessible from the street, I think.
Okay.
So that may or may not have increased, and probably would have increased the bid price, but certainly did, because the contractor needed to then change the scheduling of work and to incorporate the change being requested. So that's just one example. We will provide more detail about reasons for change orders in the future.
Thank you.
To add on to what you're concerned about, that is, generally speaking, a lot of our stuff that, correct me if I'm wrong, it's changed, but most of the stuff that we have that has to do with construction or something like that, or doing our properties, is handled by the state. But nevertheless, the city has to have access when they're using a fire hydrant, and if it's not placed in the right spot, it is their responsibility to tell you guys it's in the wrong spot, if that was what the reason was. Whatever the thing is, we do have to work with the city, because those are the firemen that come out. But I'm just saying is, the way it's presented, and I've seen it more often, of these changes, I want to make sure we're not spending more. I recall the one time when by accident, they put the wrong toilets in.
Yeah.
And
So-
then they had to redo it, and that it shouldn't have been redone. So if we're spending money on change orders all the time because someone didn't do something maybe exactly the way it should have been, or didn't bid enough, or whatever the issue is, I need to have more explanation on this. You asked us to approve something that's not really clear. So if that's happening and we're spending money in areas that we don't have to, that money can be eventually moved to another spot in our budget so we can do the things we really want to do for the kids.
What you don't see are the number of change orders that are requested that we identify are no fault of the design or no fault of, but are fault of the installer or fault of something else. And so Ms. Kessler and Mr. Heath do meet with the construction teams and our construction managers, and we do eliminate a lot of change orders that we have to pay for, and the contractors working on the project take up the cost for that. So we don't report that. You don't need to accept all of the costs that we don't have to pay.
Thank you, appreciate the information.
Well, I'm looking at a fire hydrant.
And sometimes change
44,000.
orders are actually, we'll have change orders where we get credits because something is not as extensive as it was supposed to be, or something doesn't need to be done that we thought might have to be done because we go underground or whatever it happens to be. So there are sometimes credit change orders as well.
This one just stuck out like a sore thumb.
I'm sorry?
This one stuck out like a sore thumb to me. Fire hydrant is not underground, it's above ground, and it's a very important tool that we need. So I just say, I looked at this and I just thought, wow. Okay. I guess I'm gonna ask more questions before you guys approve something. Maybe we can see some of those things.
Yeah, you get the agendas on the Thursday before, so if you have a question, feel free to call anytime before Tuesday, and we'd be happy to answer those questions.
I have a question. Does
Too late then.
this item 10E have relation to 10F, or is that something totally separate?
I can speak to that. What happened on the next one is that has nothing to do with this actual contract. They thought it did for a little bit. There was a spring, a leak, and the contractor thought they had done it, but they did not do it, and it was clear that they did not do it. But there was a leak, and we had to get it repaired quickly, and they had a plumber on site, so they were able to do that work. It was our own leak.
Our own leak?
We were just fortunate that they had them there so that we could get it done quickly. And that's why it's not a part of this.
Oh, my gosh.
So, I mean, this work needs to be done. It is unfortunate that it's an increased cost, but I think more importantly, we would definitely want to move forward to see that it gets completed. So I do want to make the motion to approve the Fernando Rivera classroom wing project with change order requests and contingency allowance.
Second.
All those in favor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item's item 10G, Governor Budgets Update. Ms. Julie Kessler, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, will present an update on the governor's January budget proposal for the 2019-2020 school year.
Oh, wait, 30 minutes of this? I know.
Not work? Okay. The laser pointer, okay. All right, so, good evening. It was only a month ago that I stood here in front of you with the first interim, and it's only a little bit over a month before I come back with the second interim. We have a new governor, California, Gavin Newsom, and this is our first governor's January proposal for the next year's budget from this governor, and so it is a little bit different, as well as the fact that the LCFF gap funding is complete, and so you'll see it's not as exciting as it used to be in the past. Right here, these are just some of the events that are happening in the federal government, that the economy is slowing, and it is, there are some concerns, as you know, and uncertainty. And the only thing I want to point out here really is, oh, it does work, but you're right, it doesn't work on that screen. The gross national product for this last year was 3%, and UCLA is expecting 2% for the 2019 year and 1% for the 2020 year. If that is correct, we're likely to see harder times. In the state, the politics and the economy of the state, it's still good, but the growing is slowing. And what I want to point out here is Gavin Newsom's budget is built on steady growth, wages, and contained inflation. Now, hopefully that steady growth is a slow, steady growth, and everything else is moderate and not aggressive, because given the economy, it doesn't look like it is slowing, and it is likely that we've been talking recession. Eventually, it's going to come. Okay, so education and Proposition 98. Proposition 98, as we know, is supposed to be the minimum guarantee that education is supposed to get in California, K through 14 or TK through 14, but it has historically been the maximum, unfortunately. So Prop 98 for this year is $80.7 billion, which is a $2.8 billion increase. That is a 3.6% increase over last year. It's a test 1 year. That means we get 40% of the general fund revenues. And we still have not had any contribution to the Education Rainy Day Fund, because not all things have been met. And the only thing that hasn't been met is that they have not been able to fund the per capita personal income increase of 5.07%. They're only funding the regular COLA at 3.46%. And this means that we do not have that 10% reserve for our reserve, a cap on 10%. Of course, our reserve isn't at that level anymore anyway. Oops. It is slow, isn't it? I didn't go 2, did I? Okay. So now I'm back. Okay, so what is being funded in education with the Prop 98 funds? Well, it's COLA. That's it. 3.46% COLA for LCFF and for categorical programs, including special ed. That's it. Nothing else. No one-time funds. There is no gap left over, and that's all that's being funded. Outside of Prop 98, however, and this part I find very encouraging. It's not that big right now, but I do find it encouraging. What Gavin Newsom, Governor Gavin Newsom wants to do is he wants to put $3 billion towards the STRS unfunded liability. And how he wants to do that is he wants to take $700 million to pay part of the liability for the 1920 year as well as for the 2021 year. He wants to pay 1% of what we're supposed to pay. So instead of us paying, and there'll be another slide later on with this on it too, instead of us paying 18.13%, 1 year we will pay 17.1%, and the following year, instead of paying 18.10%, we'll pay 17.10%. There's a savings, and you'll see that in a later slide. And then with $2.3 billion, what he wants to do is, if you recall, the reason why both PERS and STRS percentages that the employer is contributing, as well, the employees contributing more, and so is the state, but the employer has the lion's share of it. The reason for the increase is because they had determined that it was insolvent and it would run out of money, and that there's a 30-year plan to get it solvent, to have it 100% available to be able to pay all the retirees what they need, what they're due. And in order to get there, they had to increase that amount, and we have to pay that for many years. Well, what the governor wants to do is he wants to put $2.3 billion toward that 30-year mark. And of course, the present value of that is greater than $2.3 billion. It ends up being, with the $3 billion combined, ends up being $6.9 billion, the present value of that. Because if the money is there today, it's worth more 30 years from now. And so what that would do would decrease all of the out years for those 30 years by 0.5%. And so what I'm hoping for is that, because this governor is not taking this as one-time funds and giving it to school districts for whatever they want, to spend unrestricted spending, he's putting it to reduce a liability, and which is in itself an ongoing reduction of 0.5%. If he does this again next year, another 0.5%, it will start really making a big difference. It is a step. And then the Governor Brown was not in favor of issuing the Prop 51 bonds for school facilities. And so there's a big backlog of unfunded projects. And he has, Governor Newsom, it wants to authorize $1.5 billion of these bonds. And of course, we are going to get in line for these funds too with some of our projects. And so that will be good for us. We'll have to pay for the projects up front and be reimbursed some years down, because there's a long line of recipients waiting for these funds. And then Governor Newsom has his pet projects, which have to do with the early access to childcare and education. And that has to do with some facilities for all-day kindergarten, and also for preschool slots, state preschool slots. And that's his pet project. So this is the formula. I put it out each year so that if you have the desire to plop in numbers, you can figure out what the gap funding, or not the gap funding, the LCFF funding will be on your own. But of course, I do that for you. And so here it is. So for the 1920 year, we have our base amount that we're going to be getting is $48 million, and for supplemental and concentration grant funds, nearly $11 million. The supplemental and concentration grant is over 18% of the funds that we get in the LCFF. So we'll be getting almost $59 million. That middle section there that I can't highlight, because the gap is funded at 100%, all those years that they were funding the gap, a certain percentage, they're all done. Unless the base gets increased, there is no more gap funding to get. We're 100% funded. And so underneath that, again, is last year's, or this current year's, funding of just under $58 million from the LCFF. We will be getting an additional $862,000, which is a 1.5% increase in funding to make up the $59 million. If we were not experiencing declining enrollment, if this year we had the same enrollment that we had last year, we would be getting approximately $2 million more instead of the $862,000, and that would have been 3.5%. So the reason why we're not getting that 3.5% is because of declining enrollments. So this is how the changes are affecting us. The next slide will be the multi-year projection, and that slide will be the first interim multi-year projection changed just for these items here. So
COLA has been is higher in 1920 than originally expected, and higher in 2021, and a little bit lower in 21-22. But for us, it's a gain in all of those years, $400,000, $500,000 next year, and an increase of $625,000 the following year, and over the 1 year over the next, and then an additional 346. And that's just from the changes in COLA. And however, now that we have the P1, which is, we report our attendance 3 times a year. We have the P1, which is done in December, the P2, which is done in April, and that's what we're funded on, and the annual, which is done at the end of the year, and actually special ed is funded on the annual. But once we get the P1, it helps us to see what our attendance is. And I do a 4-year average to say that the kids, if they're attending at 96.7% this year and 98.2% the previous year, and I take a 4-year average, and we use that average to determine what our funding is going to be. So in any case, our attendance is 15 less than was in the original budget. And so the cost of just 15 students for the year for the 1920 year is going to be a loss of $152,000, and then $156,000 and $161,000 as we go out. Of course, as well, we'll be adjusting it, and the attendance is also right there with the enrollment, right? So if the enrollment is off slightly, if it's off 17 kids, it's probably about 15 or 16 kids. It's about 15 ADA that we would lose from losing 16 kids. And then we have that decrease in unduplicated percentage. And again, that is often caused by, number one, on a yearly basis, the minimum wage is increasing. And so just a $1 increase in minimum wage could push a family out of being able to get free or reduced. Well, as long as they still get reduced, we get the funding. But they might get out of reduced and have to be in paid meals. So that, as well as the fact that some families are afraid to apply. And so that if they're afraid to apply and they're not in the free and reduced count, then we're not going to get funds for it. So our free and reduced percentage dropped from 72.98% to 70.69%. There'll be a 3-year average on it, and with that 3-year average, we will lose in LCFF funds next year, $520,000, the following year, $774,000. And the year after that, if it maintains at the same 70.69%, we'll lose $801,000 on an ongoing basis. So our unduplicated count is very important to us, and getting those free and reduced students fed. We want them to eat, but also having them in the system. So included in this, the multi-year projection in the 2021 year and the 21-22 year, you see there's approximately, there's $3 million in cuts that we need to do. Again, if we do those reductions in 2021 of $3 million, and they're ongoing reductions, then we do not need more reductions in 21-22. If they're one-time in nature, then we would need them again. So here's our multi-year projection, and I can't use the pointer to show you the important lines there, but the last yellow line is our deficit spending. We have a structural deficit. We are spending more money than we are bringing in on a yearly basis, okay? And that is not sustainable. And you can see that the orange line under the fund balance, the bottom orange line there is how our fund balance is going down, and the next slide will show it as well. But when you look at the last 2 years, the reason why it doesn't go down anymore is because we've got those $3 million of reductions in the expenditures. Expenditures get reduced $3 million, then we don't have a problem. And it is in this scenario here, it has to be, because we would not be able to have a positive certification. And so we will have to identify some reductions. Here's the fund balance, and again, it's steady over to the two bars on the right, because there are reductions to enough to give us our 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. Without it, we will not have the reserve, and clearly, we wouldn't have much funds for expenditures either. So this is not included yet in those numbers that you saw. So the negotiated salary increase, there's a cost of $534,000 on an ongoing basis. This year will be double that because there's a one-time, and then the following years, the one-time goes away, obviously. And so that will have to be incorporated, and that $3 million cut will have to also consider, or reduction, will have to also have reductions increased by that amount. But we have a STRS, and there's, again, no one-time funds, all right? And then the STRS liability that we were talking about before, and how the governor wants to put something towards it. This is just about the same chart that I showed you on the first interim. But as you see on the left where it says STRS reductions, and then the percents underneath, that's how it's being reduced. So the next year would be reduced by 1.03%, because next year is supposed to be 18.13%, and then 1% in 2020-21, and then after that, 0.5% each year reduction. And so over here in the green, that's the savings that we'll have. And that is not incorporated into our budget yet. And the reason for that is we weren't sure if the county was going to allow it, but I just got information today that the county will allow us to incorporate that savings into the budget. So we'll save $343,000 next year, the following year, pretty much the same. And then after that, half that amount, because it's a 0.5% savings ongoing. And again, if the governor next year puts more funds to this, then the savings could increase and our costs decrease. So the column right next to the green column, it says combined cumulative increase. If you look, and this is STRS and PERS combined, by the way. If you look at the very bottom there, it's still $4.4 million of additional costs to help to make STRS and PERS solvent that this district is taking on above what we would be paying if this wasn't dropped on us some years ago. That $4.4 million would be our structural deficit. That would cover our structural deficit. If we didn't have to do this because of an insolvent retirement, STRS and PERS being insolvent, without it, we would not be in a structural deficit position. Likewise, if our enrollment wasn't declining and had stayed up, that as well would have kept us from being in a structural deficit. Just one of these not happening would keep us in a good situation. So our timeline, well, you know, we'll be coming to you with some reductions, and a lot of the reductions are in response to declining enrollment. So that's a good thing. Nobody will be laid off. There's attrition. So if we have a reduction in teachers because we have a reduction in students, we have a lot more of teachers that leave on a yearly basis, retire, or move away, simply leave, that we will not have to, and temporary teachers, that we will not have to lay off any permanent teachers. And then there are some moving of funds around, using different types of funds to support things, and we'll be coming to you. And that will have to be included, something has to be included in the second interim report in order for us to maintain positive certification. So as Ms. McCulloch has gone through some of the LCAP information with you, we'll be doing the LCAP. The LCAP will drive the budget. The LCAP will have to be adopted prior to the budget being adopted. And the budget will be based on the assumptions of how much revenues will we be getting and what will our expenditures look like as well. And once the state adopts its budget, because it adopts it after we adopt ours, then we'll have 45 days to respond and make any kind of corrections we need. Questions?
When is the state budget set to be adopted?
When will the state budget go in? They, well, first off, the governor will come back with a May revise, and in his May revise, he'll have argued with people, and he'll see where the revenues for the state are, and either like increase it, decrease it, make some changes, and that's what we'll build our budget on. And then the legislature will work with them. They'll negotiate, discuss what they want to do, what they want to support, what they don't want to support, and they'll come up with their budget, and they'll have that by June 15th, and then the governor has to approve it after that. Otherwise, they won't be getting paid, the legislature. And we know that there's a lot of people who aren't getting paid these days. So it comes in after we come to you with the budget. And that's why we have to change after. But the May revise should be close to what we can expect.
Any other questions or comments?
I did have one here. I marked it someplace. Oh, yeah. Okay. So when you were talking about the adjustments to the multi-year projection, page 8.
Yes.
So I wanted to know, you said that the LCFF funding, it's going to go, we're going up or we're going down? But
If there's brackets, we're going down.
okay. So we're getting
If there's the
a
pluses.
decreased unduplicated percent.
Yes. We're losing funds because our unduplicated percent is going down. And those funds would be from the S&C grant funds, which is a part of the LCFF funding.
So what does that involve?
I'm sorry?
What area does that involve for us?
So if I'm understanding you
I
correctly.
think the question is, what does that fund?
Yeah.
So, okay. So
Yeah,
as
thank
Ms.
you.
Kessler mentioned, supplemental and concentration is approximately 18% of our total budget, so it funds everything. You know, the supplemental and concentration dollars are in every category of our school district.
Okay.
So it's not just one particular activity or set of activities, it's everything.
So it was a big number for just like not saying what it, okay, I got it. Okay, thank you. That was the only question I actually had.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much. Next item is item 11A under Certificate of Personnel. Certificate Resignations 2018-2019. The administration recommends acceptance of the following resignation. Lloyd Lineberger, the fourth, .2 FTE student support resource teacher at FDR effective December 19, 2018. Mr. Linebarger has been employed by the district since September 10, 2007. The administration also requests an appropriate resolution be prepared commending Mr. Linebarger for his service to the district.
If there are no questions, I'd like to make a motion to accept the certificated resignation as stated.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Next items under 13, reports from board members on professional development. 13A, board study session, CSBA 2018 Annual Education Conference. Board members Shaquille Ali and Mabel Manio will highlight some of their learnings as well as give a report about their attendance at the California School Boards Association CSBA 2018 Annual Education Conference and Trade Show in San Francisco from November 29th to December 1st, 2018. Does anyone want to go first?
Ladies first.
Okay.
So, is that okay?
Oh, yes.
Okay, thanks. I attended the CSBA this past November after a week-long vacation. And even though the conference was a long week, I actually wished it was longer, as I know I learned so much and was able to make a lot of great connections there. I attended several sessions, including one on LCAP, which our county presented. I do have to say that the data presented made our county situation interestingly skewed, as they only showcased success stories and didn't actually showcase the lapse in student achievements for certain populations like our Black and Pacific Islander students. So that was interesting, but I didn't speak up about it. I also attended the MTSS session, and it was good to see how the different systems were executed. Bakersfield School District were the presenters, but the success story that stuck with me was actually from conversing with the individual sitting next to me. They were from a rural county above Sacramento, and they installed a peer mentor program with their 8th graders guiding the 6th graders. And one component of that that they added was that they had them the 6th graders walk with the 8th graders during their graduation so that they can feel and look forward to accomplishing that. So after implementing that, this small but crucial feature in their mentor program, they saw graduation rates skyrocket through the roof because the students can visualize themselves doing it too. So I thought that was very interesting. I was also able to meet with my mentor that the county CSBA set up, and he offered some very good insight for me on how to be more prepared for the meetings and different small tidbits to make my life as a board member more seamless and efficient. Another takeaway was the future trend of becoming a more holistic community with our kids and having our police departments and hospitals participate and systemize an alert system for kids who have just undergone traumatic situations. And at my current job at SF General, we're actually installing a new EHR, electronic health record system, called EPIC, which is what the UCs and Kaisers currently use. And I've asked the programmers to get ahead of this, since we are still in the middle of developing it specifically for our hospital. Unfortunately, my management pushed back with we're going to wait for a directive from the state. And this is probably why we're barely installing EPIC while Kaiser is pushing it out. So the biggest actually takeaway that I did want to share was from the ethnic studies session. The presenters were from El Rancho School District of Pico Rivera, which is right next to Whittier and Montebello in LA. They talked about which, has a very high population of Latin students. They talked about different multicultural literature, field trip opportunities. They discussed that the program not only gave the students ability to, and the forum for empathy, but also empowerment. But what we want to make sure that we do is not rile the students up. We're basically lighting a fire inside of them, and they don't know what to do with that. So this is where I think the community service learning comes in and needs to come into play. The El Rancho School District talked about taking it outside of the classroom and organizing marches and protests. I think it could be a little more constructive with engaging in civic duties. The program definitely needs to be constructive and inclusive, and their anger, which will form, needs to be channeled toward a positive direction. And the way they suggested getting it in elementary schools is through the arts. Ethnic Studies was its own department in El Rancho High School, and they worked with their local universities to get college credit for those students. And this made me, all of it, the whole week actually made me very excited for the future of our students and the possibility of implementing our own ethnic studies program. So I look forward to next year's CSBA in San Diego.
Great. Okay. So I was able to attend 2 sessions. The first one I attended was on disproportionality in special education. And the second one was turning controversies into teachable moments. So I'm going to choose to just talk a tiny bit about disproportionality in special education. So the topics they covered were the effects of disproportionality, the regulations, supports if you have disproportionality in your district, and the role of the county board members and, of course, the board members and superintendents, and strategies and processes that districts have used to move out of disproportionality and significant disproportionality. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act gives us guidelines for identification, placement, and disciplinary removals of students into special ed. And disproportionality occurs when, students of a specific racial or ethnic group are identified for special education, suspended or expelled or placed in more restrictive settings in greater number than their representation in the whole school or district. So the role of California Department of Education is to monitor disproportionality and significant disproportionality. Use this technology stuff, right? If a district has a problem with disproportionality, they are able to get technical assistance from something called the SPP TAP, which the state contracts with to provide technical assistance as required by the IDEA. And here's some national data that we need to be aware of, that Asian students with disabilities are 1.6 times as likely to be taught in separate environments. African American students with disabilities are 4.1 times as likely to receive out-of-school suspensions. American Indian and Alaska Native students are 1.7 times more likely to be identified as having a disability. In the United States, 250 preschoolers are expelled every day. Sad.
Yeah.
In California, for every 100 African American students, 43 days of instruction was lost as compared to 11 days for white students. In California, 297 children with disabilities ages 3 to 5 were suspended or expelled. doesn't sound good, does it? It says Black and Hispanic students felt less safe and connected in California schools. And the impact on students is that misidentification interferes with the school's ability to provide children with appropriate educational services. I think I'm actually going to stop there because it gets bleak. Right? Yeah.
Well, in other words, it's
bleak.
there. It's there.
Yeah. So, and the whole point is that we need to be more aware of how we're identifying and placing people into special ed in California, and also in the Bay Area. I haven't asked our district for any data, but I don't believe we have a problem with disproportionality in our district, right? Slightly? Okay. So we need to, we're not at the point where we have that SPP. Okay. So we need to do whatever we can as board members and as, the leaders to address this and make sure that we're doing the right thing and making sure that students are appropriately placed for their educational services. And actually, that would be it for me.
Cool. Thank you. Next item is item 14, governance team member comments, reports, and reflection on board meeting guidelines. Anyone want to start first? Sure.
The meeting guideline that I chose was we will communicate openly and honestly and respect differences, deliberate and address process. And it's a reminder to myself sometimes when we're inquiring, just like my question this evening, I always like to be mindful of of my delivery and how I'm asking, and reminding myself to always be respectful, because sometimes when I'm inquiring, it may not make sense during my delivery and may come out wrong, but I chose this intentionally as a reminder to myself and to all of us that we're very passionate, but it's important to be respectful. I did want to just make comments and requests. Thank you, Trustee Manuel, about bringing up the ethnic studies. I know that we've talked about this many times of updates, and I know that the process has been slow. And then seeing our councilman, who is a professor of ethnic studies today at the breakfast, he mentioned it, and I mentioned it back, and I know that he did reach out and say that he would love to connect with the superintendent, and I know that the superintendent mentioned that he would do that, so I just wanted to bring it back to the forefront. Additionally, I wanted to just follow up too on the youth cinema project, because I know that we didn't have adequate time in planning. I would love to see if we could get at the front end of planning that to fill the theater this year. I think the kids deserve it, the community deserves it, and the families deserve it, and we should celebrate them. And I think filling up that theater would be easy if we have ample notice. And then lastly, speaking to placement and hearing about placement, I know this was a discussion that I had with the superintendent last week, and I would like to learn more. I mean, I am a parent of a special needs child, but I would like to know more about our district specifically with regards to the placement process and how do we follow up with parents with any concerns, and even with our English learners. I would like to learn more about that. Just, I don't know if I'm clear, but I know that sometimes parents give inquiries, or maybe even the placement process, or maybe parents don't agree with the placement process. I would just like to know what our process is, not to speak to it, but just to be aware.
Just to get some clarity, special education identification and placement, or just general school placement?
Just what was mentioned.
What Mr. Ali was referencing? Okay, so,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you. It's a lot of requests, but It's the beginning of New Year, so we can spread them
Need my
out,
list.
so. But thank you. I just want to echo the sentiments that were shared earlier by Trustee Ali. I know we've had a long night, but there's a lot of great work that continues to happen, and we're at the beginning of a new year, and we heard from one of our students tonight about momentum, and I hope that we can continue to embrace that momentum and keep doing great things, and please know how much you guys are appreciated. We don't say it enough, and I always feel you don't hear it enough. To our teachers in the classroom, to our administrators, to everyone that makes things happen. It's so important that you know that you're appreciated. So thank you.
I actually chose something new today on the meeting guidelines, which is that we'll work toward the future, learning from our past, because I have a little bit of past with the board now, so I have context. And of course, with, the LCAP update and the budget proposal and learning how our district fared in the last few years and what our goals are, and just keeping those lessons in play, keeping that momentum, and working for a better future, which is what we're all here for anyway.
Well, I didn't pick one, but I think I used a lot of them tonight. I think we have to communicate more openly, and we have to be able to answer questions that are being asked. And the one that used to get me in trouble all the time was the one you just picked. Nobody ever wanted to hear what happened in the past. They only want to hear what's happening in the future. But you need to look at the past, because that way you're not making the same mistake 2 and 3 times over and over. And I think that that's important. So I have a lot of past behind me, so I can refer to those things so that we can be only improving and not going backwards. I think we're doing really well, but there are a lot of things we need to look at. So, thank you.
I actually have a couple of things to talk about really quickly, if that's all right. Okay. So the first is that Ms. Manuel and I met with Ms. Mikulik and the district, and Mr. Vidales to review student progress on goals, and we helped select the slides that might best be used in the presentation this evening. All slides will be made available to board members for your information in the information bulletin on future presentations. And I just wanted to mention, since we're talking about momentum and services for our students, just remind us of our push for community schools. And I've been doing some more research. Identifying and establishing community schools is one good way to move towards educational equity in California and possibly the rest of the United States. The formal community school movement has gained momentum in New York and is expanding to other states. So there was a report, according to a 2017 report from the Learning Policy Institute and the National Education Policy Center. That study combed the voluminous research to identify the elements of a good community school. When schools both, quote, support academic success and social, emotional, and physical health, and offer a promising foundation for progress, the report concluded, research shows that students' reading and math scores go up, and they're more likely to graduate. Fewer of them skip school, and they act out less often. So schools need help from the larger community to help build that foundation needed for, later adulthood. And teachers and counselors are on the front lines in that struggle. So another thing, there was a survey of 3,000 adults conducted by Columbia University Teachers College, and 2/3 agreed that students cannot develop basic academic skills without community resources, help, and community services to students and families. This isn't a partisan issue. more than half of self-described conservatives concurred. So I did actually read through the report, and a key point that I noticed in the report was that they were working with families and relying on mentors to persuade students of the value of education. So hopefully that will help students understand why they are learning certain core academic skills. We need to help students discern and understand why when they're making their academic, career, and life choices. And I focused on we will listen actively and openly, build upon the ideas of others, and look for common ground and paraphrase for understanding.
Good job.
I selected, we will keep our focus on the best interest of our students. I thought we did towards celebrating our students' successes as well as learning from our LCAP and understanding how best we can meet the needs of our students, and reviewing a budget that actually was serving our students the best it could be. Next item is item 15, persons wishing to address the board on closed session items. I have one speaker card, Mr. David Wood, CSEA Labor Relations Representative.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is David Wood, Labor Relations Representative of the California School Employees Association. CSEA has specific concerns related to the process used to discipline the employee in question. We have concerns about retaliation, disparate treatment, and due process. This employee's supervisor began actively attempting to discipline this employee in an official way the day after the employee addressed departmental concerns to the board on September 26th. Because the supervisor refused to communicate with the employee's representative, no meeting could be set until October 30th. And that only got set because I reached out to the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. At that meeting, concerns dating all the way back to March 12th were addressed. One of those concerns was 7 months old. 8 days later, on November 7th, a second meeting to discuss similar concerns, most of which occurred prior to the October 30th meeting, 8 days later, were addressed. The employee was offered anger management and an opportunity to improve, and the employee jumped at the opportunity and said, absolutely, I would love to do that. The next day, October 8th, the employee was placed on paid administrative leave due to concerns which had arisen prior to the November 7th meeting the day before, affording this employee no further opportunity to improve. How can one improve if one is placed on paid administrative leave? The goal of progressive discipline is to correct and retain great employees. The goal of this process appears to have been to shuffle this employee out the door and silence this employee who already felt powerless, hopeless, and that no one was listening as quickly as possible. The employee's manager, by failing to communicate clearly and failing to address issues in a timely manner, and by establishing a culture of harassment, intimidation, and disrespect in the department, has set this employee up for failure. We ask that you, members of the board, restore your employee to the employee's position, and that the employee be placed on a 90-day performance improvement plan with regular check-ins and clearly defined goals, and that the employee be sent to anger management training so that your employee may have the opportunity to improve and continue the great service the employee offers to students and the community. Thank you very much.
So we will now convene to closed session and
Before I go on, could I ask that we have on something on next agenda? Do I do it here or do I call? Okay.
Okay, cool. So we will convene a closed session at 9:45 p.m. Recess and come back in a couple minutes. Thank you.